Gentleman yields back. Now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Pfluger, for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for the hearing. I flew fighter jets in my professional career. Obviously, PFAS is something that I was very familiar with because it was a foam that was used to put out fires of those types of weapon systems. So it's something that I'm definitely familiar with and understand the conversation today being really important on the contamination and what the implications are for how to deal with this. I'll start with Ms. Bodine, have a series of questions. The Pentagon has identified at least 700 installations that have known contamination, and just baseline question on what are the potential fiscal implications for taxpayers under the current legal framework?
So the Department of Defense has authority to clean up the PFAS contamination with or without the CERCLA designation that we're talking about here today in this hearing. They have been required by the various National Defense Authorization Acts to report their liabilities, which I forget their most recent number, but they are undercounting it. It is billions. It's, they only talk about, $4 billion because that's what they have underway, but they haven't done a whole lot of actual cleanup work yet. So they do also say the number will end up being much, much higher. So that is a consequence of the uses of the PFAS often to create, for safety reasons, but nonetheless have created contaminating groundwater. So the difference between what they're doing now versus what would happen with or without the CERCLA designation is, can somebody sue them? So right now they're cleaning it up, but they're cleaning it up based on their own priorities and their own pace. With the CERCLA designation, then somebody can sue them and say, no, put my site at the front of your list.
Okay, so let's pull on that a little bit. Does it make sense for Congress to continue allowing liability to be resolved through prolonged case-by-case litigation, or should there be some sort of comprehensive statutory solution that addresses it?
Well, I think it's clear that liability is the least efficient way of addressing a problem, and that money is better spent on dealing with the cleanup, whether it's DOD's money or anybody else. However, I'm sympathetic, obviously, to downstream communities from Air Force bases, et cetera. But Congress has a choice. If you're creating exemptions, you don't have to include federal agencies in your exemptions if that's your choice. They are separately funded by Congress. All the cleanup done by a federal agency is paid by the federal taxpayers.
If you were to put odds on the cost, I know I'm asking for math in public, but just give us a scale. 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 10 to 1. I mean,
so in my testimony, I did give some numbers about, well, what percentage of total Superfund costs are associated with the transaction costs as opposed to cleanup. And it's the smaller the entity, the smaller the contributor, the greater the percentage. And it was over 50% for very small parties that have been dragged in. They're spending more money on lawyers than they are cleanup costs. For DOD, it's so mammoth, I can't even give you a cost.
Well, okay, why don't I ask it this way? Who stands to gain with the individual suit method, and who would lose in that? I mean, are there winners and losers in each approach?
Are we still talking about DOD, or are we talking more broadly?
More broadly.
Okay, so if EPA were to take its money, the trust fund money that's there because it's coming in through the petroleum taxes and chemical excise taxes, and do cleanup without suing, but do cleanup based on the funding that they have, everybody could gain. And then the question is there enough money in the trust fund to do that, or you still need to keep some people liable so that there's some people have been characterized here as true polluters, which, as I think many have made the point, is a much narrower class of parties than people that Superfund liability system sweeps in.
Yeah. Thank you. That was very articulate, and that's, I think the overall goal is to get it cleaned up and have everybody win. I yield back.